how to live in another country. So today we're going to talk about some of the basic things that one can do once they arrive to the new country that they've chosen. And this video is not so much about how to move to another country, but more so about how to live in another country. A lot of stuff we do that, just a lot of bad programming, old habits, bad habits, a lot of stuff that we do tend to make our transition a little more difficult than it needs to be, and can also be frustrating for the local people, in the place that you just recently moved to. So some tips on what to do. And the reason I'm bringing these tips up, my job here at Move Abroad and Thrive, we primarily work with new immigrants arriving into the city or to the country, looking for a place to stay, just needing assistance with some of the basic stuff for transitioning. And I see a lot of the same common issues and mistakes that people make, and so hopefully this will help somebody. Number one, I'm going to try and use this screen here. Number one, sit tight for 1 year. So this is a big one. I'm going to tell you, you're going to have a lot of frustrations, headaches, problems, emotions, feelings, and all sorts of things that just ain't going to be good. The feelings and emotions, man, they're deceitful. There will always be a reason to leave and go back home, especially if you listen to your feelings. The language barrier is a real thing for many people. It's like you're starting over from scratch, whereby you can't talk the language. You're unable just to even do some of the basic stuff like order food or get yourself something to drink or tell the Uber driver to stop or to tell him to turn right or turn left. All of that stuff, you lose the ability when you arrive to another country where you don't speak the language. And so for many people that can be very frustrating, and oftentimes it's a primary reason for why people go back home. And I say this, you got to fight through those emotions, you got to fight through those feelings, because as time go by, things will get better. Your confidence will get better. You'll start to realize that, hey, it's okay. I don't have to be perfect. I don't have to get it 100% right. The longer you're here, you'll start to learn words and phrases, and you'll be able to understand people. When you first get here and you hear these folks speaking Spanish or whatever language they're speaking when you arrive to your new to your new country, it's overwhelming because you don't understand, and they talking so fast, and the little bit you thought you learned ain't enough, and it all goes out the window once you start trying to open your mouth and talk. So, that's why I say you got to give it time. You got to sit tight. And definitely one of the things you want to do, of course, is start taking some language classes right away. And we'll talk about that in a moment. But sit tight. Don't leave. We've had 3 medical emergencies since arriving to this country. I had to have surgery. My daughter had to have surgery. And every time we talked about it, folks was like, oh, you need to go back to the States and get the surgery done there, blah, blah, blah. And, it was like, I don't live in the States anymore. This is my home. I need to make it work here. I need to figure it out here. I need to learn how to navigate the system here. Like I say, there will always be a reason to go back home. You don't have to look real hard to find the reason. But the question you have to ask yourself is it a legitimate reason? Is the reason to leave legitimate? Because once you leave, most of the time you're not coming back. So you gotta make it work. Fight through the emotions, fight through the loneliness, fight through the frustrations. Because I remember my wife, when we moved to Colombia initially the first time, she went up to the register to try and order a hamburger and just couldn't order. And just broke down crying at the register, because it is that serious, you know what I mean? Just the very basic stuff you can no longer do. You have to rely on other people. And if that's going to be a challenge for you, you might reconsider where you want to land or reconsider where you want to move, because there are other countries where English is primarily spoken, or is spoken in most parts of the country or most parts of the city. So do your research. go stay somewhere for maybe 30 days to check it out before you make a permanent move. Because oftentimes we have a lot of people that just show up to Mexico. They done sold their house, they done sold their car, sold everything they owned, and they just show up thinking they can handle this. And then 90 days later, they on the plane back. Sit tight for 1 year. Next thing, I'm not going to belabor that point. Next thing you want to do, of course, is find something to do. Oftentimes, I see people just sitting around, locked up in the house. And many times, these mostly are single folks that are here by themselves. They lock themselves up in the house. They don't come out. They don't do anything. They don't socialize. And again, after sitting in the house staring at the walls for 3 months, you get bored and it's like, well, I'm going to go back home because I don't have anything to do. Even though they were living alone back in the States, they had family, they had friends. I'm assuming many of them had places to go, grandchildren to see, kids to see. Somebody was always coming by, etc. So they had somewhat of a life. They had some sort of routine. But when they get here, that social life goes away because they don't know anybody, they haven't met anybody, they haven't taken the time to go mingle, and they don't have a routine. Their routine is literally getting up every day, get something to eat, watch TV, and go back to bed, and that's boring. So you got to find something to do. What are your hobbies? What are your interests? What are the things you used to do when you were, back in the day when you had a lot of time on your hand and you didn't have a lot of responsibilities? Can you revisit some of those things and hobbies? So, go fishing, take an archery class if that's something that you were interested in. If you like going to the beach, you go hang out at the beach. Take some sewing classes, take some Pilates, take some dance classes. There's always something going on that you can find to do. Volunteer. There's always something to do. You just got to get out there, be willing to get outside of your comfort zone, and just start blending into to local society. Other thing, again, learn the language, man. This is a big one. If you don't know the language prior to going, then definitely take some classes. It will make life so much easier for you. I know my Spanish is butchered right now. I don't know a lot. However, each year, the more words I learn, and as time goes by, I understand more when people speak to me versus me talking back to them. So my learning ability, my understanding has gotten significantly better now. And each year, my quality of life has improved because I've learned to understand more. But if I just take the time to learn the language, I just can only imagine how much better quality of life would be. So the quality of life will drastically improve with your ability to learn a language. So for someone like myself who's been here living in Mexico now for nearly 3 years, I would say I wish I spent more time and effort learning the language. Now, again, when we first got here, we had a bunch of medical emergencies. We didn't have time left over to spend learning because we were up in the hospital all the time. I had emergency surgery. My daughter had emergency surgery. And my daughter was also diagnosed with schizophrenia while we were here. So we spent almost the first entire year back and forth in the hospital 24/7 while she was getting diagnosed and getting treatment. So the time factor wasn't there to be able to really focus on learning the language. Now that everything is stable and moving back along normally, I intend to make more effort to learn the language because I know that the quality of life, it will be a game changer. Again, from where I was a year ago to 2 years ago and to now, just understanding a little more is amazing. So take some classes. Be willing to look dumb, sound dumb. I mean, that's the fastest way and the best way to learn is just to get yourself out there. We also, there's an app, called Google Translate. You can use that to communicate and get around. I use it all the time. So even 3 years later, I don't have to use it as much, but I still use it. One thing I want to tell you about with the app is if somebody says something in the app or type into the app and it seems harsh or stern or mean, don't take it personal, because oftentimes that app will translate some stuff and mess it all up and change the meaning, and it has a whole nother tone. So try not to get so offended based on anything that you read in the app, because I used to do that in the beginning. I'm like, why is this person talking to me like this? Only to realize later on that it was a translation issue in the app itself, because it's not 100%. So them little things will kind of make things a little bit more frustrating. But be willing to look dumb, because you are going to look dumb. You're going to feel stupid. You're going to feel slow. And again, that's part of the territory. Sometimes, just imagine this. Sometimes when you hear the local speaking, so I'm here in Mexico, and some of the guys who don't speak good English, when they're talking to me in English, and it's like, oh my God, this is so painful. But it's a reminder of how painful I sound when I'm trying to speak Spanish to them. And I'm like, that's how I sound. I sound ridiculous. I sound horrible. Oh my God. And so little instances like that make me want to practice a little more. I'll go home, I'll work on a few phrases, work on the pronunciation, enunciation, and all of that stuff, because I want to be better. So again, spend some time. If you don't have anything to do, come back to the first thing. If you don't have nothing to do, take your butt to a doggone class and sit your down for 6 months and get it. This is particularly for them folks who don't got nothing to do, going in your house, sitting up in there all day with no plans and no friends. Take your butt to a class, 3 days a week or 5 days a week or whatever, immersion class, and just make the decision that you're going to sit in there for 90 days or 6 months, and you're going to learn this thing. Two things are going to happen. Well, a couple of things. You're going to make some friends. You're going to meet other folks in the class. You're going to learn the language. You're going to be able to better communicate. You will thank me for this later on. You don't see the benefit of it now. And again, when you take this class, it's going to be overwhelming. It's going to be frustrating. You ain't going to think you're ever going to get it. Remember, time is your friend. You stay with the class. Go 3 days a week or however often you're supposed to go. And time will prove to you that those classes are going to be worth it. So do it. Other thing. When you're moving to a new country, living in another country, is you need to make some friends. Make friends. So the thing here, back in the day, I used to say, don't hang out with other foreigners or immigrants or expats or whatever you want to call them. Try and make more local friends, but man, friends, however you make them. Because I'm finding that more people they stay to themselves and stay in their house. So if you got to hook up with other foreigners that are living here, then by all means do it. They become a great resource to tap on to find out things on how to do things, where to go, how to do this, how to do that. Ideally, many of these folks would have been people that have been living here for a while. Messing around and hanging around new people that just moved here, it can become challenging, because a lot of their issues and frustrations and problems that they have, because everybody got problems. They can transfer over to you, or you just might not have time. You know what I'm saying? Or they leave all the time. They get here, they think they're going to be here for a while, and then 90 days later they're gone, and then as your new friends leave, now you're thinking maybe I need to leave, or maybe I need to move, and maybe I need to go. And so you don't want to get into that cycle, because once all your friends are leaving, and you're going to feel you're missing out on something. So ideally, try and make local friends, and the best way to make local friends is by participating in local events, doing things, signing up for activities, learning how to dance. Like I said earlier, take a sewing class, take some nail classes on how to do nails and manicures and all of that stuff. Take some music lessons, whatever that is, do it. That's the easiest way to make friends, especially if you have children. I know with us, we have children that are taking different classes. We take them to their events or take them to their classes. There's other parents sitting around, And just by being there, it opened up the door for you to start building new relationships. So you gotta get out of your comfort zone. Making this transition and living in another country is not easy. It takes a lot of work. It's a lot of work and a lot of energy, and you're going to deal with a lot of frustrations. This is the stuff people don't talk about, but it's real. So make some friends. The sooner, the better. The other thing, when you decide to live in another country, you got to leave your bad habits behind. They ain't gonna serve you any good here. Oftentimes, the biggest thing that I hear people complain about is how they don't do things here like they do back at home. Well, this ain't your home. The way they do things here is completely different. May not make any sense to you whatsoever, but it makes sense to everybody here. I know one of the frustrations I had was I'd be standing in line ready to order, take my food to the cashier to pay for it, my groceries, or I'm at a restaurant, and then the person in front of me or 3 people ahead of me, they're sitting up there talking, having a full-blown conversation with the cashier. That might be 10 of us in line, and they just having this long, drawn-out conversation like there ain't nobody else there. Now, I can get mad, which I used to do, but as time go by, you start to learn the culture. You start to understand this is what they do here. Ain't nobody else in that line getting mad except me. I'm the only guy who's mad. You know what I mean? So again, you have to leave some of your bad ideas, bad habits, what you think is the right way. You have to leave all of that behind. Because if it was so right, why did you leave? Why did you come? You don't have to stay here if your other country does it better. You know what I mean? And so that is one of the big things. They just, depending on no matter what country you go to, they just have a different way of doing things. For example, here they don't you don't put toilet paper in the toilet. A lot of folks are like, well, I'm going to flush it anyway. Well, if you're coming out here with that mindset, it ain't going to work out for you. It just ain't. You know what I mean? Just because they do things here differently doesn't mean it's bad. The way they drive is, my God, it's insane. But it's normal driving here. If I'm going to try and get on the road and drive 100 miles an hour, I'm the only one who's going to have problems. I'm going to be the only one to have frustrations and headaches. I'm the only one who's going to get bitter and mad while everybody else going on about their business. So leave your bad habits, your ways, be open to change, be open. You really going to have to be patient. And that's why I keep going back to sit tight, stay put for 1 year before you make any decision, because as time go by, you're going to find a whole bunch of reasons why this ain't going to work out for you. But time, as you continue to wait it out, you'll start to adjust. You'll start to realize, okay, this is a better pace of life. This is a better quality of life. You start to understand it. You start to appreciate it all the more once you start to adjust. And that adjustment phase can take a year or 2 or 3, because I know 3 years in, it just continues to get better and better because my tolerance is better, my patience is better, I've adjusted better. They become the norms that they have become a norm for me, and it makes life so much easier. So just sit tight and leave your bad habits behind. This one is a big one. Depending on where you're going, time means nothing. Time has no value. Look, some of these places you go to, if they say, hey man, I'm going to be at your house at 2 o'clock, they ain't going to show up at 2 o'clock. They might show up at 8 o'clock, or they might not show up at all, or they may not call, or they may show up 3 days later. And if you're not there 3 days later, they knocking at your door, now they got problems with you, because they're like, where you at? I told you I was coming. You know what I mean? So you're going to have to relax, be patient, until you start to understand how things go, how things work. Now, some of us will be like, man, it's just disrespectful not to call and let me know you're going to be 3 hours late or you ain't coming. Yes, that's how it works where we live. Not so much in some of these other countries, particularly the Caribbean and these island nations and countries. That's just how they do. When you make the decision to live in another country, these are some of the nuances you want to live with and have to deal with. Right or wrong, it doesn't matter. It's how they do there. And maybe as time go by, things will change, things will improve, but if they don't, you always remember, you are there. There's always other places you can go. You just got to be patient. You got to be woosah, relax. Ooh, that's what you got to do. You know what I mean? So, again, I'm just sharing these things because these frustrations and issues are real to many. And if these are going to be an issue for you, you might want to reconsider some things or find a place where these type of things are not an issue. So don't stay isolated. I mentioned this earlier. Isolated. Get out. Do stuff. Find people to hang out with. There are many Facebook groups within the country or the city that you've chosen to live. Go on there, Facebook, do a search. And oftentimes within these groups, you will find people posting events, posting things to do, activities to participate in. And like I say, get out there and volunteer. You don't lock yourself up in the house. You didn't come all this way to be stuck in the house. You could have done that back in the States or wherever you're coming from. So you got to get out your comfort zone and you got to put in the work not to isolate yourself. Activities for kids. If you have children, definitely find stuff for them to do. The sooner the better. You don't want them locked up in the house, staring at the walls, doing anything, doing nothing. You want them out and about. You want them out making friends. Let me tell you a little secret. The sooner you can get your children involved in activities, the faster they're going to learn Spanish. Kids have this ability to soak up knowledge and soak up things and learn very, very fast. And I promise you, within months, 3 months, 6 months, your kid is going to be talking some Spanish. And to the point where if you need to go somewhere, you can drag one of them kids out the house and take them to the store with you, and they'll be talking on your behalf. Same way they do in the United States, you know what I mean? A lot of New Mexican families move to the States, but their children have picked up the English language. So they'll take the kids out, and the kids will translate for them. So I find that to be the same case here. But you got to get them kids actively involved in some stuff and being around other kids so that they can pick this stuff up and learn. It's going to save your butt one day. Because I drag mine out all the time. I'll be like, hey, I need you to roll with me. I got some business to handle today. I need you to come with me. Or Charlie, I'll be like, hey, I pay you 100 pesos. You roll with me. I need you to find out this. And sometimes we'll be trying to order food on the phone. Because sometimes we just got to talk on the phone. And we can't necessarily just message through the different apps. So we got to talk. So I had to get one of them on the phone to do the talking because they understand a whole lot more than I do. They can communicate and speak a whole lot better than me. And so, but this only works when you get your kids involved immediately because they're going to pick it up quick. Go back to, you keep hearing this reoccurring theme here. Try new things. Travel to other parts of the country that you're in. Visit. See what's going on. See how people are doing. Take some dance classes. You know what I'm saying? Every place have their own style, the unique brand of dancing. Go to some amusement parks. You know what I mean? Also check out, this is a time to reinvent yourself, really. It's really what this is all about. Reinvent Yourself. Let me break this up a little bit. So reinvent yourself and just try new things. Again, you moved all the way out here. Don't just find yourself sitting up in the house. Get out, get outside your comfort zone. Be willing to learn. Be willing to try some new things. And I promise you will have the best time of your life. I know we like to go, for us, we like to try different restaurants, and we like to go visit small towns outside of our immediate area, far away, up to 2-3 hours away. We just like exploring these little towns. It's just something we like doing. We like going to different parks, checking them out. One day we hope to make a visit to a couple of the amusement parks near Cancun. We were planning a trip to Cozumel and stay out there for a week and just kind of hang out, but plans have changed. But again, try some new stuff. Try the new food. I mean, everything here is going to be new to you. Try it. Work on it. Just get out of your way, get out of your own head, and just try. So, volunteer. I think I already mentioned that. There's all sorts of organizations where you can do different things, read to kids in your language, in English or in your whatever your language is. There's a lot of countries where street dogs or street cats are a thing where you can participate and assist with that, helping get dogs spaded or neutered or feeding them, getting them adopted, getting them off the streets, etc., etc. Like I say, reading English to kids. A lot of places here want children to learn whatever language you got. There's places where you can teach the local kids your language. So these are good opportunities to meet people, forge relationships and friendships, and offer something of value back to the community that you're in. Biggest thing here, really, man, at the end of the day, these are really simple rules. Just be respectful to the people in the country that you're living in. And oftentimes we come here with this entitlement complex or this attitude problem that we got. And man, a lot of here, particularly in Mexico, and I find even in Colombia, people in generally are not, they're not confrontational. They try to avoid confrontation. I guess perhaps due to a lot of the trauma and nonsense that we've dealt with in our own country, United States or Europe or wherever you're from, we bring a lot of our trauma with us. Oftentimes we're running from something and we bring that with us. And so when we talk to people or engage people, our attitude can come off as negative and bad energy, and people pick up on that. So try and check the attitude and understand that the problems that sometimes we bring with us is not the locals' issue. Make the effort. If they speak Spanish, if Spanish is the primary language in the country that you're living in, or Japanese, make an effort to learn the language and learn and make the effort to try and speak. Just making the effort to try and speak goes a long way versus walking straight into the store and just flat out ask, do you speak English? Can somebody here speak English? I see that all the time. Make an effort. Understand if that's what you're doing when you first arrived, but months down the line, you should be making a better effort to do that. That's the entitlement that we have, the audacity to walk into another country where the language might be completely different from our own, and we expect them to adapt and adjust to our English. And then sometimes they have the nerve to get mad and angry when they don't understand us or we don't understand them, and we get frustrated. It's like, okay, back up a little bit and remember, I'm the one who bought a ticket to a Spanish-speaking country called Mexico. And if I got a problem with the fact that they don't speak English, that's an issue that I got to work out. You know what I mean? So again, be respectful, be mindful. Don't walk around with such this entitlement complex and bad attitudes because somebody don't understand you. That's your problem that you got to fix. And again, so these are just some of the things that people don't talk about. So that's all I really wanted to talk about today. I have a website, of course, called Move Abroad and Thrive. And if you like to get more tips on moving abroad, living abroad, check out our website here at www.moveabroadandthrive. I also offer telephone consultations, so if you like to hop on the phone and talk, again, visit our website at moveabroadandthrive.com and get and set up an appointment. We also have a VIP members only area where you, for a small fee, you can join and post questions. I have a section in there called Ask Cartes. You can ask questions there. I personally will respond and answer your questions. So it's a great site for getting resources and planning your new life abroad. So thank you for watching. I appreciate it. Have a wonderful day.